I really enjoyed the filming. I enjoyed gathering, what do we call it, capturing the footage.
I was excited because I'd never done anything like that before, and I've always wanted to learn to do it. So this was my big chance to learn how to do something like this. So I was very excited to do it, and it was really creative. It felt much more creative than writing because I don't do fiction, and this really allowed me to bring a kind of creativity and aesthetic sensibility. How well I did that, I don't know, into an intellectual project in a way that alphabetic, traditional, long form prose just doesn't invite.
Oh, I was excited. I mean, I'm walking around shooting video of anything I see, read things, especially text, and just having fun with it. And had no idea what it would come out like. And when I saw that block of concrete, I almost fell over laughing because I was like, oh, it's just sitting right there waiting for me. So, I mean, having these things just kind of come upon was fun. I knew what I was generally what I was looking for, but no definite idea. So it was kind of exploring basically and finding things to slide into those 60 seconds. So it was a good day.
Really a kind of joy when it was all said and done and it actually worked. And a real sense of accomplishment, having never done anything like that before. So it was kind of like get up and do the happy dance. And that was really more, I mean, the frustration was clear, but the joy at completing it was even stronger than the frustration, I think.
I enjoyed it. I really did. I think a lot of that was the fact that we had so many people to ask for help. We were never, well, I have to turn this in a couple of hours, but I don't know how to do this thing. And there's no one here to help me. That never happened. And I did sort of get lucky. Like the audio came together really quickly. I had a few things line up. So I was lucky not to feel frustrated. I felt really sort of like that sense of wonder that the speaker was talking about this morning. I thought, this is so awesome. I mean, I've been sort of, I write fiction and I've written a screenplay and I'm sort of interested in the idea of making some sort of like little tiny independent movie, like with my friends or something, just to pass around, not to like even submit to any contest or anything. But I thought, well, I'm almost 32. Like, you just can't like learn something like that. You can't learn how to make a movie when but it turns out you can. Which is like, I feel incredibly inspired and empowered. I really do.
For me, even though I am familiar with iMovie, it was more the audio that was tripping me up, and so I was really frustrated since I hadn't used Audacity before. I was frustrated because I thought I had this great product at the end, but the audio was just so off, and I felt like it really detracted from the video that I created. So I guess I was just surprised that I went in like with this hubris, this ego of it'll look great, it'll be fantastic, and then this thing that I did not expect kind of tripped me up.
How did that frustration affect that process of doing this project?
It made me more obsessive about doing it because I have I don't want to let technology beat me, so I was determined to wrangle it to make it work for me, and I think that resulted in really late nights and lots of editing and lots of re-envisioning the project. I started out with one idea and followed that through, and then thought, this isn't anything like what I want to do, and so I had to go back and do something else. And the more frustrated I got, also the more determined I got to do the kind of work that I wanted to do.
You've talked some about frustration, being overwhelmed. Would you say those were the primary ones? Were there others?
I think there's also just self-doubt. I mean, you're good at something. You're here. You have the graduate degrees. You probably have experience. You've been successful in school. You're not. All of a sudden you're not. And as we talk, that may really be the hardest emotion, that academicians believe by definition in expertise. And that expertise gives us control. We learn one little area, or we learn one, not century, but one 2-year period of a century, or one person's work very, very well. And that gives us a sense of control over our professional lives, at least, and what we do in the classroom. all of a sudden there's no control.
Always it's not really rivalry or, but I didn't want to make an ass out of myself in front of my colleagues, in front of my new friends, and I've been talking about my experience teaching multimodality, and then if I showed up with the most bogus or the most basic, or that I would look pretty stupid, and so that was part of it too, my emotional investment.
But I was apprehensive that it would not come out at all. I was nervous that I would kind of bungle it up. And there's another layer of anxiety to multimodal composing is that it would just, and I guess I don't really think of this with computers in terms of alphabetic composing. I mean, you can still lose your work, but it's not the same. I don't know. It's caused a different level of anxiety because there's more stuff, right? I mean, you have different types of assets, and it just seemed more, even though it was just for 1 minute, I was much more worried about losing things than I was, if I was writing a, 20-page essay or something. Like I said earlier, the body, just interacting with a machine that I wasn't familiar with was very frustrating. And it really kind of got in the way of my process in a lot of ways, because I'm trying to get on a roll, and then I accidentally hit control something instead of command, and my page goes blank. And I was really nervous about showing it. It's like, I don't want to show this because I know everyone else's is going to be better. And mine's not going to be as good. And that's not which I guess it is with writing, but then I'm not there when somebody reads it because it's out, and whereas this, we watched it all together and everyone could be like, that was yours, it was bad.
Emotionally, I felt anxiety. I definitely felt frustration because I felt that I had this, I thought my initial idea was really great, but I just could not understand how to transmutate it into these other modes. And I just, I felt some frustration with then the criteria of it had to be 60 seconds. Like, I just had 120, a little, definitely some self-consciousness. And just because my peers seemed to hit the ground running. And I felt like, oh, I'm the only person struggling. And then I thought about what Cindy said about being satisfied. And that, it is about, being satisfied, and that this one product, is not the measure of me. So.
Yeah, I mean, in this particular video, outside of the pressures and anxieties of getting it made, it pretty powerfully touched on some emotions of childhood. So yeah, it had a significant kind of autobiographic resonance. And I'm not sure is the primary thing that I wanted people to understand in the little video, but it was a part of the making of it for me was about the personal.
I mean, I chose a personal space for my project. A lot of the ways because I don't have a car, and so it's easier to get around. It's like, hey, I have this space right here that I can use, that I can go in with a lot of detail, capture a lot of footage without too much trouble, and go in really, really detailed. In terms of what I've done with it after this, I mean, I've posted it on Facebook, I've emailed it to my family members and stuff.
Well, it was about my children, and so, and I'm usually not very emotional about my children. I love my children, but I think that I was more emotional because I was away. So it's been, at the time it had probably been 5 or 6 days. And so that was part of it. I was missing them. So when I would hear my son's laughter, it was just very heartwarming, but it was also heart-wrenching. So the audio was very much a part of the emotion, in a way that kind of surprised me, because seeing the images, it didn't make it that way, but the audio was what was really powerful. And even watching everybody else's videos, even when there was a narration or a voiceover, that's what was very powerful to me.
I mean, partly just because my sort of topic was like really personally close to me. There were sort of a lot of emotions attached to it. As I was sitting there putting it together, I was sort of like, okay, this is a lot, because like I said, it kind of really got me to rethink this material. It had me looking at these pictures in a different way and seeing these sort of parallels between like me and my grandfather, who I never knew, and had me sort of thinking about my family, doing the sort of tree and then having their pictures together, just sort of looking at what do we look like as a group before. And it also really had me kind of rethinking the poem that I wrote, which I hadn't looked at in, I don't know, like 3 years. So it was interesting to revisit that, and also then sort of like emotional just to revisit that, like something that I very much poured myself into, when I was like 20 and thought I was being very profound. But I didn't find it particularly frustrating. Like I said, it was kind of easy for me to put together. It was just sort of like the kind of personal weight of rethinking these ideas and sort of, and then also having to like show it to everybody. I got a little bit more kind of anxious than I thought I was going to when we sort of displayed it, and mine came up and I was like, I don't know if I actually want like everybody to see this part of myself. But I'm glad I did it. I'm glad that was the topic that I sort of landed on, because I do feel like I sort of expressed something that matters to me, at least, in the project. So.
That's an interesting question as well, because when I think about my work normally, my academic work, emotions are rarely a part of it. I guess, we have feelings, we have kind of attitudes toward our work, but there has been, I think our field, our discipline, folks just in the academy have, over the years, made a conscious effort to reduce the emotional aspect of anything that we do. When we talk with students about the principles of rhetoric, ethos, logos, and pathos, perhaps, we say, this is the academy, this is the university. The focus is first on the logos, the logic of what you're saying. Next, on the ethos you can establish in your writing that demonstrates that you have the authority to make the claims that you're making here. But rarely is there an element of pathos in the production of academic work. That might be a little bit different in our field, because I know that we have some conventions in academic writing where, for example, it's more likely that we'll include like examples of like anecdotes, things that happened to students, things that happened in the classroom. That's part of one of the conventions of our writing, our discipline, that could have an emotional element. But I made this video that was about my father. It was about family. It was about like the legacy of his work. And so it was, to me at least, there was a powerful emotional element to that, and it just came naturally. And I think it came naturally because the technology, the mode of production, just kind of led me to do that. I'm going to stop short of saying that it would lead anyone to do that all the time, but for me at least, it was like, of course, that's what you do when you have a camera. So it's going to have an element of pathos, an element of emotion that wants to be there somehow. So for me, the creation of that video was to some extent an emotional experience. And as soon as I had it done, I put it on YouTube and I sent it to my dad so that he would know. I guess I didn't start out the project thinking this is what will happen, but very quickly in doing the work I could see that that's how it was playing out.